Our next performance is Tea with Buddha, presented by the 10th grade.
Tonight, through captivating movements and expressions, our talented performers will take us through the poignant journey, portraying the profound effects of war on the human spirit. Through chaos to grief and finally acceptance, Tea with the Buddha.
In this powerful narrative, chaos will unfold, symbolizing the turmoil and confusion that war inflicts upon lives. Our dancers will embody the struggle and disarray, and the upheaval of emotions during such turbulent times.
Presenting Tea with the Buddha.
An interesting debate of right and wrong, positive and negative, of war and peace, not just on the battlefields, but in all our minds. We, the students of Grade 10, have developed a narration through the shades of color blue, representing eternity. Just as we heard, the color blue has many dimensions. So does the demon of death, called Mara in Buddhism. Mara is the inner temptations that arise within us. Mara is the ignite to negativity. Mara is the drive for destruction. And Mara is death. So sit back and watch the transition of our thoughts from Mara to Buddha. Let us start off of a conversation between chaos and Mara amidst a war.
Death, dismay, despair, dread, deprivation.
War is nothing but a rotting dump of these emotions. But I, Mara, find solace in it. It is like a second home to me.
That is because you're death itself, Mara. You often visit these wars as their endless carnage demands your attention. The start and end of war are between two set dates, but their mark on mankind is indelible.
A lot changes after a war. A country, its people, but most importantly, their mindset. They learn to fight for what matters to them most.
Not what matters to them, what mattered to them. War incurs a heavy cost, one that cannot be settled through money. Life, it's mankind's misfortune, a blight on their very existence.
War may be atrocious, but there's a certain beauty to it, a certain beauty to war. Take, for example, these radical group of missionaries in Gotham City. Even with death lurking overhead like a merciless spectator, they march forth, one step after another, transcending mortal fears and dedicating their hearts.
These warriors are passionate, and their passion is also very defined. And defiance is what that paves the path to hope.
Come now, chaos. Let us bear witness to the fiery passion of these combatants in Gotham City before it's eventually extinguished.
Five, four, three, two, one.
over here.
If you thought I was just another dope blonde, well, the joke's on you. I'm Harley Quinn. Pleased to meet ya.
What are you gonna do? You gonna kill me, Mr. J?
I'm just gonna hurt you. Really, really bad.
Bye, Detroit boy.
am death itself, feared by most and hated by all. I'm the greatest harbinger, the one of transition, the ferryman guiding souls across the river Styx.
However, as I, grief, have observed, the majority of those who grasp the guiding hand of death are unable to swallow such truth.
I bear witness to the fragility of life and decay of their conscience and serve as their final companion during their last moments.
They struggle and fight against the bare truth so much that they forget to breathe and they slowly fade away.
That is simply the order of nature.
They long to fight for the allure of the uncharted. They bargain like the desperate and refuse to accept their fate before falling into deep, deep grief.
After all, grief is the price they paid for affection.
That's logical. Anyone who experiences death must start with grief, and our combatants are no exception. Let's look at our fellow fighters go through the 5 stages of grief: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and finally, acceptance.
The first stage of grief is denial. In this stage, the person refuses to accept the truth. They may pretend that the loved one is still alive, or they may avoid talking about the death. This is a natural way for them to cope with their grief, but it can also make it very difficult for them to move on. They hide from the truth, or they hide the truth. They hide the truth. They just hide from it.
This night is cold in the kingdom. I can feel you fade away. From the kitchen to the bathroom sinking. Your steps keep me awake. Don't cut me down, throw me out, leave me here to waste. I once was a man with dignity and grace. Now I'm slipping through the cracks of your cold embrace. So please, please, could you find a way to let me down slowly? A little sympathy, I hope you can show me. If you wanna go, then I'll be so lonely. If you're leaving, baby, let me down slowly. Let me down, down, let me down, down, let me down, let me down, down, let me down, down, let me down. If you wanna go, then I'll be so lonely. If you're leaving, baby, let me down slowly.
Of grief is anger. In this stage, the person feels angry at their loved ones for dying. They also feel angry at themselves for not being able to save their loved ones. They lash out at others and even withdraw from social interactions. They just withdraw from everything. They just withdraw.
Nothing can stop me, I'm all the way up. All the way up. I'm all the way up. I'm all the way up. Nothing can stop me, I'm all the way up. Shorty, what you want, I got what you need. Shorty, what you want, I got what you need. Shorty, what you want, I got what you need. Shorty, what you want, I got what you need. Shorty, what you want, I got what you want. I got shorty, what you want, I got what you want. I got what you want, I got what you want. Nothing can stop me, I'm all the way.
The third stage of grief is bargaining. In this stage, the person tries to make a deal with the universe. They may promise to do something good. If only their loved ones could come back. They may also try to make a deal with the loved one themselves, as if they could still change the outcome. This is a way for the person to try and regain some control over situations that feel completely out of control. I am out of control, but I think I have some control. Do I? Do I have any control?
Il était bon, le temps basané, le regard timide, les mains toutes abîmées. Il taillait la pierre, fils d'ouvrier. Il en était fier, mais pourquoi vous riez? Non, ne le jugez pas. Vous qui ne connaissez pas les vertiges et le labeur, vous êtes faussement heureux, vous troquez vos valeurs. Lui, il est tout mon monde et bien plus que ça. Seul je crie son nom quand vient le désarroi. Et puis tout s'effondre quand il n'est plus là. J'aimerais tellement lui dire, mais je n'ose pas. Lui qui me fait tourner dans le vide, vide, tourner dans le vide, vide, tourner dans le vide. Il me fait tourner dans le vide, 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 tourner, tourner dans le vide, tourner dans le vide. Il me fait tourner.
The fourth stage of grief is depression. In this stage, the person feels a deep sense of sadness and despair. They may lose interest in activities they used to enjoy doing and may even have trouble eating and sleeping. This is an extremely difficult stage. However, it is important to remember that it is a normal part of the grieving process. I grieve, I am upset, I am depressed. I am just depressed.
I wake up, puddle of sweat. I have nightmares and I get back into bed. It's like these voices just keep playing on repeat in the back of my head, and I can't get them to leave me alone. 30 years old, but still hates being alone when I'm home, because that's when the voices get the loudest. Opening up like this is a moment far from my proudest, but these demons keep pressing me. I swear they're the foulest, but I've grown comfortable with their presence. My conscience is calloused. My dreams are their playground, my thoughts are their palace. I try to evict them, they return with more. Anxiety isn't an item you can return at the store. I was 10 the first time I had a panic attack. Like a punch to the stomach, there's no planning for that. And I didn't tell anyone because I was too scared about what they'd say. And I know deep down there was nothing they could do to take it away. It was my fight to fight and my battle to face. I remember that house I grew up in and how those demons would rattle that place. I'd lay awake at night just staring at the ceiling. I've spent my whole life trying to run from that feeling of being lonely, that feeling of being lost, that feeling of being sick when the lights turn off, that feeling of being depressed, that feeling of being anxious, that feeling of screaming to God, begging Him to take this, only to get silence in return.
The fifth and final stage of grief is acceptance. It's this stage where people come to terms with what has happened and start to find a path forward. But acceptance can be challenging. It's not just about forgetting what happened or pretending like everything is okay. It's about acknowledging the reality of the situation and finding a way to live with it. Acceptance is not an easy journey, but it is an important one. And remember that you are not alone and that there is always hope for healing and growth after loss. I accept everything that has happened.
Suffering is optional. Peace can only be obtained if pain is accepted.
Why is death so hard to understand? I see all of these souls going through the 5 stages of grief.
Grief is a long and arduous process, Mara, and acceptance is the light at the end of the tunnel.
Everywhere I go, I see human futility, them plunging into pitiful human emotions. It's as if denial, depression, and grief are my little followers, following me everywhere I go.
Though the aftermath of war causes an eruption of negative emotions, we must persist through our trials to understand its inevitability.
I don't think that's all I amount to, Buddha. All living creatures have one innate desire, and I, by myself, grant it to them by giving them the youth that they so dearly want.
You have a role to play, Mara, to bind the people of the world with desires, temptations, greed, and jealousy. And I too have a role to play to break all those bonds of desire.
But I'm Mara, the ultimate tempter. Even you, the humble Buddha, must fear death.
All things that breathe eventually draw their last breath. The beauty of life stems from its temporary nature, Mara. And the fact that life has a final conclusion is not a cause for fear, but for understanding and peace.
What you say may be true, Buddha, but that can only be awakened by me, death.
Maybe. But death isn't suffering. Living in fear of death is. Likewise, happiness isn't the realization of your desires, but the release from them.
Are you telling me a soul can die peacefully? Death is the disconnect from all worldly attachments. Death is another dimension.
Suffering is caused by the adherence to the extremities of life, whereas the middle path severs the painful bonds between one's desires and sufferings.
That is simply not possible, Buddha.
It is, Mara. I innate the feeling of overcoming desires.
I invest in negative thinking.
I alter the environment to change the perspective.
I create war that leads to pain and destruction.
And I preach the path to enlightenment that leads to peace, acceptance, and death.
Buddha, are you trying to suggest we two are similar?
Mara, we are not the same, but we are one. We are two opposite sides of the same coin of life.
After everything, after chaos, denial, grief, and destruction, Mara and Buddha, these two opposing forces, sit together and have a cup of tea in the belief that Mara and Buddha, peace and chaos, life and death, live in all of us, together and in harmony. These are not forces that are incompatible. These are forces that cannot live without each other. These are forces that coexist. However, can we have peace if chaos was never there? Can we have death without life itself? And how can we have Mara without a Buddha? I would now like to call upon the script writers of our play, Arya Gauri Shankar, Sashwat Seksarya, and Panya Bellam, who have contributed greatly to the grand success of our play.